Hello, and welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn, an online radio show and podcast focused on national security, policy, politics, and selfless service. We're here to give you an honest opinion, a different perspective, and hopefully a few laughs. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspectives and asking you, the listener, to interact with us on our chat room, via our Facebook page, and of course, on Twitter. Keep it funky. Oh, yeah, everyone, that's it. Keeping it funky here. Went back a little ways and pulled up an old intro from a few months back. Hello, everyone. It's June 4th. You got Stu here from Stu and the Nunn, and you see to my right, your left, my man Toby, down in the Southern Studio.
I'm sorry. I'm wiping the tears from my eyes because, it's been so long since I've heard that sexy intro.
Sexy intro.
Now on the main stage, Toby. But it's great to be here on this lovely Thursday. The weather's getting better down here in the southern studio, Austin, Texas, actually Georgetown. Let's represent. We're in Georgetown. We're in the cool town. We're north of cool Georgetown.
You're in the red part of the blue of Austin.
There's this little tiny blue dot on the sea of red called Tejas, but I am close to that. I am close to that. I can feel its presence at times.
Williamson County, back on the live PD.
Amid local controversy, yes. Williamson County is back on live PD.
I keep looking. Every time I watch them, I'm like,
we could do a whole show on just like that. Yeah. That controversy, but we don't have time for that because we got some awesome sauce on today, and going with the theme of people either that have served or people that are well associated with those that serve, that represent or work in the veteran sphere, running for office. We've had a couple just superstars on recently. Tonight is no different, but we've gone from superstar to movie star, and we got the awesome Mindy Robinson, who goes without any introduction in the veteran community, but she is a delightful person out of the 2nd District of Nevada. And she's running for Congress because there's a third. Did I get it wrong? The third. Oh, look, gang signs. The third. Third herd. Who you with? But no, because there's some Dans, and these aren't the Dans we want to know. So,
welcome, Mindy. How you doing?
The Dans you want to know.
That's right.
No, these are not the Dans you want to know.
There we go. Hey,
welcome to the show, Mindy. How you doing?
How are you doing? I thought you were going to say, or pretended to be a veteran. I've done that twice already on film. And I hope I can definitely the crude humor, which I'm used to. Some people don't realize I spent 6 years in 29 Palms. So I feel like I'm on par with Marine with a very awful deployment that went nowhere. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Yeah, but, we commonly refer to it as 29 stumps. Yes, know it very well.
Stumps burned down. I used to play pool and hustle all the E3s out of their money, but I heard it burned down after I left.
Well, there you go. If you want your money back, find Mindy in Nevada 3 and vote for her. And she'll let you. She'll play again and let you win back this time. Anyways, yeah. Well. So you are familiar around. You've never served, I don't think, but you're around a military community, and you do understand the sense of humor that many military have. I think that's pretty clear.
I think it's hard not to range 15 and not catch on to that. I'm one of the few civilians part of that film, and they needed a female comedic actress, and I have my sense of humor and whatnot. So I got to be brought on, and I played this. Actually, I think I'm a civilian in it, but I'm surrounded by veterans, and I'm the person that's like, "What are these coins? What is this?" Like, I'm the begging the question, so that normal people watching it can kind of follow along, and it's something to bounce off of. And it's one of my favorite projects of all time. I know it's as much fun as it looked. We watched it last week for no reason because I didn't see it since the premiere, and I'm like, man, I just remember all the things behind the stories and that ad libs and all the extras, and that was a hell of a time. I was hoping we'd do a sequel, but
yeah, I mean, you're around.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a couple of people that wish there was a sequel.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there's a couple of people that don't. this takes me back. Like I was out with Nick out in North Carolina. I can't remember what I was doing out there, and we're doing some kind of business thing. And then the guys were coming in, and they were just starting to like work through the script issues. And like I remember the comment at the time was like, "Man, we're on like change 7," and it's like I was like, "Oh, so you're just about there," like. 138 changes later.
Funny story is, I was an actress. I worked full time at that time. I was doing so many projects a month, and I loved this project. I said yes from the start, and then it kept getting bigger and bigger. And William Shatner, all these things were added up. And they did a table read. I couldn't make it to. I was filming something else, and I think they did another one. I couldn't make it to. So they're probably wondering like, who's this broad by now? What's going on? Is she gonna know her stuff? They haven't really met me. Only Ross knew me, I believe, at that point. But they'd kind of known me, I think, because I was, on Randy's Ice Bucket Challenge video and a few other things, and then the presents. And so I show up just to say hi. And just because I'm a little, I'm a certain kind of person, I had one big monologue in the whole movie, and I couldn't sleep the night before without getting off book. I couldn't do it. It was my biggest piece in the whole movie, that whole spiel with, the cliff and all that stuff. And I didn't know what we were filming the next day. So just so I could sleep, I'd memorized it the day before. And they don't know this. So I show up, and they're like, let's do that one scene. And I think they just wanted to see if I could pull off that one big scene. And so they got their scripts, and they're reading it, and I don't even have a script in my hand. And I did the whole scene off book, perfect. And they were just throwing the scripts down. Like, they're like, oh, I'm like, would you guys, I'm a professional. I have some faith in Ross. He did hire me. But anyway, so I love that story, and that kind of set it, and then the rest of the film, what a blast. Like, normally I get to work with actors. I'll tell you what, working with veterans was more fun. It's they're happy to be there. Even the extras were happy to be there, and I love that moment, and I'd love to do something like that again.
Yeah.
Hey, just tell Nick, dude.
Yeah.
Right
just tell
fun.
Nick and Matt.
Just tell. I want to do it.
Yeah, Nick and Matt and Rocco and all those guys that.
I'm dead, I guess, but whatever. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, like it was a zombie movie.
Yeah.
You could come back.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they blew my head off. Everyone was
that's right.
I had to warn my mom.
No, you could come back.
That really was a spoiler alert there, but. At least you didn't have happen to you. Evan got the worst part of it there, but
dude, we did that in one shot. That part where the what's his name? Martin Kleba. He runs over, he grabs, and he throws it at Matt, and Matt catches it, throws it back, and hits even in the head. We couldn't have done that again if we wanted to. It was a wide shot. It was perfect. We could never recreate it, and it stayed in the movie. And I never laughed so hard at any scene I've ever done. Like, Randy was there that day. Everyone was just losing it. We were supposed to be quiet, and we couldn't. It was epic.
Awesome. So,
but anyway, politics though.
Yes. So what the actual reason?
So many politicians have started out. Some of our greatest, right? Ronald Reagan, others have started out in acting in Hollywood and worked their way to politics. So it's not an unnatural.
The
governor, yes. I mean, some would say the president. I mean, even though his acting thing was kind of on the side. I mean, he was kind of something before he did a reality show, but that definitely isn't what made him, what he is. But yeah. So let's talk about that.
Al Franken.
Oh yeah, I guess you could say that. I didn't see that one.
Gracefully stepped down. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, a good chance. Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about Nevada 3. Let's talk about what prompted you, actress, doing a lot of things, probably a lot of stuff going on. What got you to wake up one day and said, "I'm gonna run for Congress and take that on"?
Yeah, I know that seems crazy, even when I still say it out loud. I went to college for this. I majored in political science and American history. I was always fascinated by it. And then I just never ended up, I was a researcher out of college, but I was never, I never really did it. I wanted to be a history professor, and I couldn't get into grad school, even with a 4.0 and everything. And I hated the world and just went my own way. And I accidentally ended up doing film and everything. But I don't know. I guess when you start acting and modeling at 30, you're kind of formed and you really don't care what other people want. I was called fat and skinny on the same day. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I was just in there and I would work, and my work ethic kept getting me work. I just, I had certain limits I wouldn't do, but for the most part, whatever. And I worked constantly. They would fire people and then hire me. It was just one of those motions. But the whole time, I never really hid who I was. And probably, I think once the election happened, the Trump thing, I was like, yeah, Trump. People like, oh, you're nuts. He's never going to win. And from that point on, I just started commenting on politics. So I had a page that was built off acting and all the modeling and stuff. But I liked talking politics. And I seem to have done it in a way that was explanative and funny, because it can be really depressing. And people, they got hooked, I guess. I mean, liberals get top fan badges on my page and stuff. So I must be doing something right. But yeah, it's like a community. And then when they get kicked off, I would fight for them. And then I get kicked off. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. To now, I want to say it's about 500,000 patriots. I get said something that's like an injustice. I try to highlight it nationally to get it taken care of. And we've taken care of a few things. We've gotten pedophiles offline. We've gotten crappy laws pulled. We've, whatever we need to do. The left does it by cancel culture. We do it just by educating people. Like, this is awful. Here you go. Do something about it. And it's the social pressure that you can use on social media that can really get things done instead of just complaining about it. You can make things. You make someone's name trend for the wrong reasons, they will change what they're doing. Usually, unless you're Alyssa Milano, and she never seems to catch on to that.
Yeah, no, I would love to see you and Alyssa in a head-to-head debate.
That's happened.
Like debating, or just like, hey, you're that girl, right? Did you big league her? That'd be funny. Like,
well,
she needs to be big league.
I troll Alyssa Milano because it's easy, and it's funny, and it makes
it's not challenging.
She asked for it, the face mask with the crocheted holes and it's stuff like that. She makes it very easy. And so I'm at Politicon, and I've got the producer of my show, Red, White, and Few, apologetically patriotic. And I'm like, do you think she knows who I am at all? And we look up and we just see like laser beams of hate at me. And we're like, oh yeah, probably, and then that was the day Laura Loomer called her out. It was just so hectic. I love politics. I guess it drives most people crazy, but I live off of it. I'm good at it. And I never did answer your question, but yes, that's why I decided to run. Everyone said I should run. I'm like, I feel like my work's better done online. I'm able to do this and do that. And then I looked at my own community and my own district, and I saw what should have been a very easy seat for the GOP to win. We have a Democrat that voted for impeachment and a district that voted Trump. Should have been easy. And instead, we have a millionaire liberal who's anti-gun that somehow got the Nevada Firearms Coalition, if you hear me out there, to endorse him, even though he's anti-assault rifle. And a con man. I'll say he's a con man. He's been sued 5 times for ripping people off. He's got 3 assaults and a domestic under his belt. And when you watch his commercials, his battle cry has never been convicted. Well, buddy, you pled down 1 battery and you don't get convicted in a civil suit whether you lose or not. So, something's really wrong. And I did not really see it until I got inside the race how crooked it is in Nevada and why. This very red state, this very freedom-loving state is blue. And it's blue because of corruption and negligence, wanton negligence, and a lot of do-nothing paperweight politicians. So I think, I'm jumping in this as a non-politician, but still, savvy enough in politics. And I think I know what I'm talking about most of the time. And I want to encourage other people to do it. It doesn't cost $1 million. My opponents are like, oh, it's $1 million seed and you got to do all this money. I'm like, I don't really. And when you look at what we're spending on, I'm like, yeah, you can mock me because I didn't raise as much PAC money as you. But at the end of the day, I'm more fiscal with my money. And if you're a fiscal conservative, you want someone like me spending your money wisely and cutting it where it needs to be, and not some guy who spent $200,000 on advice. I got a problem with a lot of the way it's run. And part of what I do is expose it to the people, the locals, and be like, look, this is going on. So, and then the establishment gets in my ear. I'm like, I don't care. Hey, people, this is what it's like here. I'm always going to be for the people. I don't care if I get chewed out an email or who hates me. Anyone that knows me and watches my stuff, you know what to expect. You know what I'm about. It's not going to change. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And I cannot say that about a lot of the other people in this race.
So 2 things real quick. One of the Dans doesn't like guns purely because he's not allowed to have them. So,
that's actually the other way around. He won the net. They're both endorsed by gun. I can't wrap my mind around it. I've kind of gotten to the point where I feel like endorsements are things a candidate gets because they're weak and inactive on an issue. You think about it. So I took on Aaron Ford, who's the Attorney General now. He wanted to get rid of castle law. He wanted to be sort of intruder broke into my house, and I defended myself. They could sue me civilly, and if I killed them, their family could sue me. And I had a big problem with that. And I called him out on that. And I publicly shamed him until he pulled the bill because his only excuse was, what if the person that broke into your house was innocent? Not on my watch, bro. And it turns out
my bad.
So I
I broke into the wrong house.
Oh, I hate it when it happens. And so I was active, and I'm pushing for universal concealed carry. I don't want to be a felon when I go across state lines. I don't believe in universal background checks. The background checks we have are fine. I've been very active. We had trouble with the background check during the quarantine. That's what I do. Now I've got an opponent who's a criminal, basically. He's endorsed by the NRA and the Gun Owners of America, so I know how worthless that endorsement is. And I've got the other guy who's publicly come out and said he does not believe that we should have assault rifles. And he got endorsed by the Nevada Firearms Coalition, which has like 900 followers on Twitter, so definitely a presence there, big and mighty.
Yeah,
and so
big hitters, that coalition.
And then the National Right to Life did me bad too. They lost my survey. They won't return my phone calls. They won't return my emails. I co-produced a pro-life movie and I act in it. But my opponent has done nothing. That's the endorsement. I don't care about the establishment anymore. I'm going to do this for the people. And I hope that my actions and the things that I've been doing and exposing are going to speak for themselves. I don't need a pretty little stamp on anything I'm doing anymore, honestly.
So
that was my spiel on that.
let's talk about Nevada, because y'all are in national news right now for some things that are kind of going awry there, right? So nationally, there's this recent event that's kind of reignited some underlying issues or some underlying emotions, and throughout the country, we are seeing different reactions to it. One of the reactions we're seeing is in Nevada, some serious assaults on law enforcement. And when I say serious assaults, I mean lethal, violent, premeditated assaults on law enforcement.
Almost execution style.
It was an attempted assassination from behind. That's what happened to one of our law enforcement, and he's in life support and in prayers.
Yeah.
But that's what we're looking at. And the point I like to, what I find is very interesting is ever since this quarantine happened, I've been out there with my fellow patriots. We protested CISLAC. We wanted to recall them. We protested the unemployment. That didn't work. It's 13 weeks, by the way. It still doesn't work. We protested how he wouldn't let us go to church, even if we kept it safe, which he has no right to do constitutionally. We protested the Capitol. We showed up in guns and AR-15s en masse. And I'll be damned, we didn't have a single incident. There was no violence, not even anything, nothing small. The left protests for one night and it becomes the purge. Yeah. Clearly, right-leaning America and independents are not the problem. And they may not actually be the problem. Now, there's probably a lot of well-meaning liberals and just average people, because it was an injustice, showed up to protest and do an injustice, and they get hijacked by the left. The left can't try that with us. We got our guns. We're we're literally got flak jackets and everything. They're not going to try anything. Antifa never magically shows up, to a gun-friendly city when we do one of our rallies, ever, for a reason. But they're able to, I feel like, hijack what I believe are really well-meaning people. I don't blame the protesters for the riots and stuff. It started off with good intentions, and I understand that because I've been doing it myself for the last 2 months. But it got hijacked. And the minute it gets hijacked, you have to take action. You have to have accountability. You can't just, we already released everyone that was arrested for the riots here. You got to be kidding, right? New York did the same thing. What kind of punishment is that? I don't understand what's going on. And I see a world where Democrats are letting this happen. They released prisoners because of coronavirus when they had no place to go and nothing to do. And then, of course, they're going to commit crimes. And then there's going to be riots. And then you're just not punishing anyone. And the only reason I could think to do that is because you want America to be destroyed. The impeachment didn't work. The Russian collusion didn't work. It only revealed their flaws. Coronavirus didn't work. Even with padded numbers, it wasn't there. And so now they're doing riots. And we're seeing it, that this is all left-driven, hate-driven. They want to destroy this country because they can't win any other way. And the other thing, obviously, that I uncovered during all this running and whatnot is mass election fraud. It's so easy to cheat. It's disgusting. I mean, it's easy for some people to cheat. Not my camp, apparently. They're doing ballot harvesting, but I don't know how they're picking those people because it's no one in my group, so it must be my opponents. But they're doing ballot harvesting. It's illegal. It's against the Nevada Constitution, from my understanding. They're calling it people collecting other people's ballots. Sure.
No, so you touched on something because you talked about some very specific places. You talked about Nevada, you talked about New York, you talked about, people getting out already. And yeah, there is this those are policy issues. Those aren't people issues. Those are policy issues.
Those were policies that were suspiciously set up right before this happened. That whole bail reform that New York did.
Yeah, so Troy loves that. It's his favorite subject. No, but you talked about the protests that you all did, and there were no issues. Well, that's because regardless of what you had, whether you had weapons or you didn't have weapons, it's a behavior issue. Those are people issues. Like when you go out in public and you behave a certain way and you account to each other, to the person to your left and your right, and your behavior is accounted to them, you behave a certain way. When you go out in public and you know that there's no accounting, like you can do whatever you want. Like this mob mentality of like, oh, well, we're just going to do this thing because we can, like, we feel empowered to do it. We're going to smash this car's windows, even though like they have no idea who owns the car. They have no idea like why the car's there. We're going to set this ablaze. Like that's just from a lack of accountability. And that's a policy issue, because like what is going to happen? They feel empowered.
Yeah, everything is done in this world. I've told soldiers this, I tell my kids this, and I tell employees this all the time, and customers of mine. Everything is done through carrots or sticks. You figure out what it takes to motivate people, right? Whether you're motivating people that work for you, or you're trying to influence or motivate other people to do things or not do things, it's either you're going to dangle a carrot in front of them and reward them, and that'll do it, or they have a threat of something painful or something they don't want to lose or whatever, right? The basic concept of leadership. Right, and motivating, instilling, helping others to accomplish a mission. But if there's no stick, then there's no repercussions. Now they're calling there's major leftist groups calling for defunding of police departments all across the country. Do they just want to? I mean, if you want to see what life is like without a police force, look at what's happened over the last week of where the police could not respond or be there because they were so saturated or blocked off. That's what life's like without a police force. So if you want to defund the police, if you want to remove them, then what's going to happen is people are going to come up and rip down boards and take anything they want and assault people, throw rocks through windows of just walking by. That's what life looks like because there's no stick, there's no punishment, there's no motivation not to do it. That is anarchy. Hence the exact mission of Antifa or any anarchist, right, is to cause that. So you're right in one thing, Mindy. I mean, there's a lot of things that have happened, right? The running joke now is like, what's June? Is it the Yellowstone super volcano going to blow? Murder hornets didn't work. That was like April. That phased out real quick.
Murder hornets was so last month.
Yes, exactly. Right. So now we have super volcano possibly. We got some hurricane coming up.
Is that a Tara Reid movie?
Everyone's waiting on the zombie. Like everyone's like, does December zombie month? Because like we think that's the end. I mean, that's gonna be the last one. But
I'm waiting for Tara Reid to come out of retirement because I know like that's gonna be the one. Like whatever. Like when Tara Reid like reappears in the public and she's like, "Oh, here I am, everybody. It's me, Tara Reid." Like that's when I hunker down because I'm like, "Oh shit." Like this is where sharks are flying through the sky. There's volcanoes.
Hey,
shit. Like that's where I'm like 20.
Here, okay? One of my best paying gigs.
But I mean, you brought it up, Mindy. I mean, it's
we're at the point now. We see like a movie like that's ridiculous, and Randy would just be like, "Why aren't you in that?" I'm like, "Come on." It's not all like that. I do have a pretty fun repertoire, and I like when people put me down. Like it's not. It was fun, like boo-hoo.
No,
I did Sharknado for me.
It paid the bills.
No, here's the thing. It's like I was making a joke, but like that's your profession, right? Like anytime, like I'll never forget. I was doing something. Long story short, Morgan Freeman was there, and someone was asking Morgan Freeman why he did this role, and they were like, now you've done all these different roles. Like, why did you take on this role? Like, what was it about this role that inspired you? Did you read the script and you just felt attuned to it? He's like, no, my agent told me $14 million. And, like everyone's like, oh my God, that, the voice of God just said like he did something for money. And it's like, yeah, he's an actor. Like that's what he does. He has like kids and grandkids, and he likes to sail, and those things cost money. And like, you take any actor or actress anywhere in the world, and they like to eat. You're like, why did you take that role? Because I could. Like, because that's my job. I'm an entertainer.
It's funny because people will crap on me and they'll be like, oh, you did Evil Bong. I'm like, I did Evil Bong 4, 5, 6, and 7. And they'll laugh at that. I'm like, but it's not like, and you look at their profile and they're like, they work at Subway. I'm like, you're 60 years old and you make sandwiches. That's okay, but don't crap on someone else because they found something a little bit more fun. I'd rather, act with puppets, whatever. That's people complain about things like that, and that's a them problem. Yeah. I got to learn that a long time ago.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is like people associate the character with the person, and like that they miss the point that the character and the person are not the same. Like, that's a role. You're playing a role. And
I mean, when how many times have I played a bimbo? And they're like, oh, you just played bimbos. I'm like, this bimbo had to memorize 50 pages. Like, obviously not. You have to be really smart to play dumb. It's actually really hard.
Yeah, this bimbo has like a degree that wanted to be a history professor. Like you're a poli-sci guy. Like, no, people just they don't make that distinction. I made that joke because, like, some of those movies are pretty epic, and that's why I was like, when like something epic is coming out, you're like, oh shit, like if she's involved, it's gonna be epic, and you're like, here we go. That's I was just making a joke, but a lot of people don't get it. Everyone sees these actors, and then they see these characters that they play, and they're like, they expect that person to be that. Like one of my favorite.
If they're typecast, they're it's not even, and a lot of it's true. Like, I put a little bit of myself in almost every role. And then I like doing things that are the complete opposite. That's just.
Sometimes you just got to play a simple Jack. I mean, I'm just saying. Sometimes you just got to play a simple.
Or Jack Mandeville, right?
Right, he's kind of a simple Jack all the time. Yeah, but I mean, it's not even that. It's just the persona, right? Some people see a rocker, a musician, or whatever, and they think that person is this persona, or even and someone else that gets in the limelight, and then they meet him, and I've met a number of folks myself, and I've heard time people like, that guy was nothing, or that girl was nothing like I thought. So down to earth, so this. They just get this. They put him on this pedestal. I mean, a lot of people think like Tim Kennedy's this really big tough dude, but we know like he's seriously a wuss. He's very whooped. He's scared of everything, and we try to keep Tim and tell him to keep up that persona because it helps. But it's hard to, Toby spends a lot of time trying to keep him straight. Just as a little inside track there, right? I'm in New York. Tim can't. He's got at least a couple days before he gets to me.
He'll find you. He'll find you.
Like he's got his pilot's license. He's got his pilot's license now. He just added to his threat level.
Oh, come on. No, impossible. How am I supposed to compete?
Yeah, no, like there's a lot of freedom on the other side of hard work.
Hey, I got a quick question I want to ask out of the chat room if we can. I was going to throw one up because this is from Nathan. Mindy, how do you feel about the Hollywood left? You're kind of working in Hollywood space. How do you feel about the left? A lot of people in the Hollywood left bailing out the white supremacist troublemakers out of jail. Those that are putting up the GoFundMes and bailing them out. And just what are your thoughts on that? And what do you think their inspiration and their drive is behind that?
Well, it's a 2-part question. First, I don't know if you saw me, but me and Chrissy Teigen got into a Twitter beef. I pointed out that what she was doing was inciting violence against her own country people. And she wrote this crappy comment that's like, oh my God, Mindy, like, sure. Like, it was like this big thing. I'm like, I'm sorry. Are you implying I'm some kind of Valley Girl bimbo? And like the irony here. And, people just wrecked her. I want to say there's like, I don't know. Last I looked, there's probably like 300 negative comments just tearing her up because she's such a hypocrite. And the second part to that is be wary of people. All the people that didn't want Trump to win, that were very vocal about it, we can't have him win. Why didn't they want him to win? Really? And now they're all friends with Epstein and that kind of club. Now they knew if Trump won, their party was over. Their Epstein Lolita party was going to be over. I'm sure there's evidence. I mean, that's what Epstein did. He dealt with blackmail, and he is blackmailing all of Hollywood. So he's like, if Trump wins, you guys are going to get exposed. So get out there, go on TV, say stuff. These people are the most morally corrupt people. They just had a Me Too movement because they're all raping each other. And they're going to get on the rest of middle America about how we're racist and awful people. How? You're raping each other for roles and hiding it because you want that Oscar. you know, they're thanking their abortion. Oh, thank God. What was that woman thanking her abortion so that she could win this Oscar? I'm like, I could have vomited. And I think America sees that. You have to understand, Hollywood lives in this bubble. They threaten and bully everyone else to shut up. So they think they're the only ones that think like them. And there are a lot of people like us there. There really are. There's a lot of crew and a lot of people that do all the real work. And, you know, and they see it. And I was mentioning this the other day. I'm like, I remember going down the street and I saw a Jane Fonda billboard for her brand new show. And I'm like, what universe? That woman should have never worked again. That thing would be on fire if it was like in any other kind of red state or something like that. Veterans hate her so much, and rightfully so. She's a communist. But, you know, Hollywood rewards that behavior. They clap for pedophiles and rapists. They're sick. And the fact that they have the gall to preach at us about our morality because we're farmers or we're rednecks. I'm a redneck. You know, it's lost so much. And I think the people are done. And I think it started showing in the box office. You know, they're doing these big movies and they're bombing. And we're like, yeah, we don't care about your leftist crap being shoved down our throat anymore. I don't want to watch it for free on an airplane. And, you know, we showed them that. And now, look, we don't have any movies coming out. But
no, like, so Corona has done a couple of things. And one, you know, Corona's definitely affecting the film industry. And, you know, it's going to be interesting, you know, seeing like the transition of, you know, movies being released in certain venues and then being released to different platforms versus venues.
How convenient that the theater model was dying, because it cost a lot of money for those TV ads and those billboards.
Yeah. No.
And now, we're just gonna have to watch it streaming at home. I'm like, you couldn't make money rebooting the same garbage and shoving it down our throats that you could before, you know. And you know what? If they want to compete on streaming, okay, because I know a lot of conservative projects. I'm about to start too.
Yeah.
And I hopefully have one coming out. It's supposed to come out in the spring, but of course, here we are. The pro-life movie I did, Roe v. Wade. We got John Boyd, Stacey Dash, you know, John Schneider, all these good conservative names. And I think you're going to see more movies made for the American people, because we're done with Hollywood. I think we're more done than they know.
Yeah, no, and that's what I was like. No. Not only is the film industry, but TV's getting like this weird bump, and TV's getting this weird bump. And you would think it'd be the opposite, because everyone's like, oh, I've been at home for all this time, so I've been watching more. And that's true, you know, like Netflix and Hulu have seen a ping. But because of people's political opinions, and now like with the COVID shutdown, like where's Jimmy Kimmel? Like here were like these late night guys that were like cruising on bashing people and on virtue signaling, and you know, they were cruising and they were just lighting their own little torches, thinking like they were living high on the hog. This happened, and like people have more time on their hands to watch TV, yet those ratings are plummeting. Like those shows are struggling, and it's like it's really interesting. I think you're right. People are figuring it out, and people are like, you know, my dad, you know, not a political guy at all, and Canadian, and bless his heart, you know, he was sorry for a lot of things, but his pocketbook did his talking. And I remember him telling me, he's like, if you know you don't like something, you don't want to support someone, like don't spend your money in their store, like don't contribute to their thing. Like that's the easiest way to send the message. And I think we're starting to get it. I think we're starting to see that message happen. Like people are like, they're not watching the Kimmels. They're not paying attention. The Me Too movement, you said it, like people got all about like your favorite girl, you know, at Politicon, you know, old Alyssa, you know, giving you the eye daggers and stuff. But like, where was she when like she was strangely silent at the beginning of the whole Joe Biden thing? But, you know, you got, oh man, not Jane. I'm like embarrassing myself right now. She's like the person that's gone up on stage the most amount of times. Blonde lady, you know, like she's standing there like trying to bring back, oh man, Hollywood brain fart.
She's very memorable, apparently.
no, she, damn it.
She's
like Meryl Streep, that one?
Meryl Streep. Like,
oh yeah, she clapped one of the most. Like, he raped and sodomized and drugged a 13-year-old girl. But
that's what I'm saying, and she stood up, like, and that's the thing is like, people are like starting to see through that. They're like, oh, like you wanted us to bring him back. You wanted the president to pardon him. You asked the former president to pardon that guy and bring him back in the United States because you felt like that was a viable conversation. Me Too happens, and you're up there like, oh, me too. And you're like, what? You were totally cool with, she was like 13, right? Like you were totally cool with that? No, it's really interesting. And I think people are starting to see through it. People are starting to see through it in 2016. Like that's why Trump did really well. Like people that were on the fence about certain things, they were like, well, like I don't really, like all the policies, but damn, like this is what she represents. Therefore, I'm not going to do it.
Well, there's two. Right. You mentioned a bubble. I mean, there's two bubbles, and in this country. One is in the Beltway. It's in the Beltway of DC, right? Everyone in DC thinks the world revolves around DC, and they think they're. And the other one is Hollywood on the left coast, right? So you got Hollywood who thinks everyone listens to them and all this stuff, and you got the politicians in DC, and then you have those in New York City who are just so self-absorbed they don't think anything, and they think the rest of the world is like a no man's land outside of New York, out of the 5 boroughs, but. DC and politicians have that same concept. So you're kind of stepping into both space. You come from one space, but you're working in the other, where people are so self-absorbed and so vain and so full of themselves. They have blinders and earmuffs on. They look like someone we're hauling off to Guantanamo. They can't see or hear anyone else or know what's going on, and they only see and hear those on their left and right, and they believe their own crap. Do you feel with the do you feel there was any good that came out of? I mean, the Me Too movement came out. It had a number of people in Hollywood and in the media industry that kind of spoke up, even though everyone kind of knew that the Epstein and the Weinsteins of the world were out there, and it was kind of like the stereotype of what Hollywood was. Do you think that did open up some people's eyes and minds and maybe think, oh, I shouldn't march along with everyone else? Did you see that in your circles out there?
My takeaway from the Me Too movement, it's two sides, I would say. In one way, it meant well. It wanted to call out the sexual abuse and the favors and the blackmail and all that other stuff. That shouldn't happen. It should never happen. And I feel like and people have been calling it out and getting ignored, but I can't even remember what the one thing was, but finally became a movement. Like I said, you have to do a call to action, #MeToo, and everyone had these stories. And all these stories were adding up, and they were on the same people doing the same thing. And, like Kevin Spacey and all other stuff. It revealed that. And then once that happened, it's Hollywood abused it, I think, and made it kind of more of a, if I say something, then I'm going to get attention. So they all started saying something. They all started outing it out. And they have no idea that, yay, you should call that stuff out. No one should be raping you. No one should be doing this thing. But number 2, you guys hid this for decades. Because you wanted your little trophy, because you wanted to be in a big film. And it revealed our hypocrisy without even meaning to. And so while the movement, had good meaning, I think what it ultimately did was show what these people have been doing this entire time and what they're willing to do. If they're willing to do that, to be raped and shut up about it and be punished if they talk out about it, what else are they hiding? And that's when you do get into the other weird stuff that people talk about, these, the pizza kind of stuff.
How is your support, like internally? And the reason I asked for that is because like you got some really good friends, you got some powerful people, you got some wonderful endorsements, you got a pretty impressive person in your personal life, how's that? Like, do you do well with that? Like, does that help? Are you getting attention because of that?
I like to. I mean, the people that know who I'm with, but I don't use that. And you'd be surprised how many people don't realize we're together until I'm a normal human being. And I post a picture of us together doing something. But I do like doing things on my own accord. That's just kind of who I am. And I was in Hollywood and I talked to those girls and like, I'm so-and-so's girlfriend. I'm like, ugh, douchebag. Honestly, like I hate that mindset. I hate that, like, okay, congratulations. Like it doesn't make me an MMA fighter. It doesn't make me an American hero. I'm always going to do my own thing. And I think that's why we work together very well. And like I said, as I mentioned, I think endorsements are crap. I'm learning that really quick. If you are given an endorsement and you've done nothing to back it up to deserve it, that endorsement is crap. Which is why you have someone like Roger Stone, who does this beautiful glowing video. I almost cried, feelings about how amazing it was and how much he believed in me. I love that. That's a real endorsement. That's how it should be. And yeah, but structurally wise, I don't, I have a really good group. I have a really good campaign manager. We do a lot of stuff, and I'm slowly very quickly surrounding myself with other patriots and really well-meaning people that see that I'm not doing this for money or fame. I could have done Hollywood a lot different if that's what I was about. I'm doing this because it's the right thing. It's my new civic duty. I didn't get to serve. I couldn't make it. I couldn't make the PT. So this is like my way of serving my country, and I'm proud to do it. It's happy work. It's like 14-hour days, but man, like I can't sleep. I get so excited because I got to work on something, and I'm finally finding something to use my hyperactiveness toward.
One of the reasons I brought it up and it is because there are some impressive people there, and because of that, that helps you stand on your own. Where people are like, well, this person, the Stone's a good example. Like, well, how are they associate? How does he? Well, he must know for a reason. Like one of my favorite. I don't want to say you're in my top 10. Yeah, you're probably in my top 10. Like Twitter, for me to follow on Twitter. But Christy, that girl's savage. I don't know why anyone even refers to her as like the vampire slayer. Like they should just refer to her as like they're just a liberal slayer. Like she's awesome.
She's so yeah, she's
amazing. No, like she is like, but she's intelligent and
you like everyone thinks actors are dumb. You
and no, and like
things with like stuff going on. It does require a level of memorization and talent and likability and charisma and all the other weird stuff we have to do. But yes, I've met actors and awful actors. I've never met a dumb one. That's really hard to do, actually.
No, like and that's the thing. There's a lot of myths out there. There are some stereotypes, and there's a reason why they're stereotypes. There's some people that aren't good, but they get things because like couches are real. But like. It's like Dan Crenshaw, I'm not in his district, he's in a district a couple hours away from me here in Texas. But, everyone's like, well, he got where he was at because, he was a Navy SEAL. It's like, actually, he didn't get where he was at because he was a Navy SEAL. And he didn't get where he was at because, like a guy in SNL made fun of him. Like that definitely brought some national attention to his campaign, but he was whooping everyone's ass before that. Because he's intelligent, because he's well-spoken, because he's researched. He knows where he's coming from. He knows why. And he cares about the people that he represents. He truly wants to represent them. And like, when you see that, and this is one of the things that blows my mind about Hollywood is Hollywood has always been known for caring about people. Like, whenever there's an injustice, you can count on Hollywood to care about it. But like, where are they in caring for themselves? Like if someone, you talked about a conservative project that you got coming up with Stacey and them, like, man, Tiger eat their young. Like someone has an opinion that they don't like, or accomplishes or overachieve, whatever it is, like, oh, we gotta put them down. But I guess that's part of the whole, Hollywood, popularity contest. Like, you gotta like always face that, like the whole audition thing. Like, you gotta be what people want. People gotta like you for you to get the role. But no, it's so interesting, like to hear your opinion on it, and also see like how you've been able to like stand apart from it, where people can know you for being this and not that. If that didn't even make sense.
I'm always me. I'm just doing different things. But maybe that's the other thing. Like I said, I started modeling and acting at 30. I mean, you're out to pasture by then, usually. But I looked really young, and I was able to pick up the 20-something-year-old roles where the girls that were actually that age, gorgeous girls, they didn't have a work ethic to save their life. They'd show up, make demands, suck. They wouldn't know their lines. They get insecure, and then once they get insecure, like they start breaking down, and they get down. I'm like, Lord. And then I get the call, and I'd come in and play a 25-year-old or something. Like I'm kind of pushing it at some point. I think it was like last year. Someone's like, "Hey, was that this college movie?" And you're like, "Am I a teacher?" Like, there's a point where I'm like, I'd rather be like a really good-looking 40-year-old than just a questionable 25-year-old. But yeah, there's a lot of insecurity. And I see some nasty stuff. And if I had gotten into it as a child or my young 20s, it might have messed me up. It really might have. But you see someone like Christy Swanson, who's been doing it since she was a child. Man, she's got her stuff together. And so I think a lot of it's going to have to depend on maybe something inside that already exists and the people around you, support group. I mean, it's a nasty business for children, and it's not a good business for young women for all the obvious reasons. But it takes a certain personality. And if you don't got it, you end up doing drugs and drinking just to get through it. So it can get really ugly. It can spiral really fast.
So Congress has the ability to manage industries. If Congress can get involved in baseball, Congress can get involved in Hollywood. What is and there's some issues with Hollywood, like the Chinese government rewriting films and changing like the outcome of films, to be pro-Chinese. Like if you get elected, when you get elected, is there something that you're going to do, to affect, the entertainment industry to better it for, what you just said? Like, I'm a father. I got two beautiful daughters, and, like my youngest, she is definitely a ham, and she wants to be in front of every camera and do every little thing that she can. And I love her. She's awesome. But it's scary. Like I wouldn't want her going into that industry. When you win and you get into Congress, what is something that you would love to enact towards that to protect or to change that industry?
Well, that would be a state issue, depending on where this is filmed, which is usually California and stuff. And we do film stuff here. I think the main problem that you started mentioning was China money. If you ever watched a big film and suddenly you're like, who's that guy? And there's some Chinese speaking actor you've never heard of that somehow got like a lead or co-star role. And then you start noticing the story's weird. Like it's very a certain way, very liberal in a strange way. And that's Chinese money. And it affects movies. It affects a lot of things. For my position, which I think is, I want to protect children, that's going to have to do a big call to arms on the industry, which is a great time, people in LA. You have a lot of time. You're sitting at home. Why don't you pick up the cause? In LA, whoever's responsible there, the government, do something about it. Protect the women and children and men more. Men get it too. People forget about that. There's a lot of men that had to get a role. And that's disgusting for men and women and children. And then that needs to end. But that's something the state has to do. Something I'd like to do is just end this I want to get off the teat of China. I really do. They own way too much of our stuff. I think it's a conflict of interest. We got congressmen and governors, and the guy I'm up, he's got money in China invested. No, you're an American. You're supposed to represent the people. You invest in your country. You don't invest in a communist country that wants to kill us. No, it's a conflict of interest, and I think it should be a disqualifying factor for political office. Any foreign money, for that matter. But hey, that's something I'm going to have to get Congress riled up about. And it's going to be hard with the establishment. Like I said, probably not going to be very establishment. But you can put pressure. You can do it from people up. And you just make demands. Like, look, if you want a better country, do not vote for this person. They are Chinese money. They're this money. They do not have your best interest in mind. Maybe they get investments in the Middle East. That needs to end. It absolutely does. Because I think it's a conflict. If you're not going to make the best decisions, you're going to make the best decisions for your bank account and not the country. So that needs to end immediately, personally.
Let me ask you this. This is going to seem like a weird question, but when you talk about going against the establishment, do you and hopefully you can see why I'm asking this. Do you see AOC and the Squad and some of those as a positive sign of how someone can go against the establishment and become a voice. If you think about it, they are the Democratic Party and the established Democrats. I mean, she beat, a long-term incumbent for his seat. And, she's now being almost considered like could she be a next kingmaker because she just endorsed someone else running against a long-term New York Democrat. But do you see people like that where, hey, this young up and coming and these new out of DC, not part of the Beltway established kind of politicians that just came in, namely the Squad and others, could that be a positive sign that, hey, even when you get in, you could have that kind of impact and influence? Could you through your personality and charisma start to say, I'm not going to go along with, the standard established, whether it's be politicians in general or even Republican Party, like we got to shake this up. What does the Republican Party need to do to attract what it hasn't been attracting for the last 20 years?
3 things. Let's see if I can remember them all. It's such a game. You have to understand the AOC, while she is fighting the establishment of the DNC, she's really just a replacement establishment for socialism. And we know she was propped up. We know she was hired. If you watch her go off book and the way she goes on book, it's 2 completely different people. And they put her in a district that was easy to win, and they flooded it with money so that she could win. So to me, that's not anti-establishment. That's just someone else's plan to try to get socialism to work, which is probably going to start failing because you literally just had everyone on quarantine, everyone's businesses forcibly shut down, and we were handed crumbs if you could get them. Like I said, 13 weeks running, there's still people without unemployment in Nevada. So that's that part. What was the second part? Oh, it's so hard to remember stuff. What was the second part of it?
Well, do you think that you could capitalize on that? Do you feel like you could make that kind of win people over and influence folks even without money? Disrupt the normal, even the GOP establishment, if you would.
Well, I kind of am going up against the GOP a little bit.
You are, yeah.
Obviously, the head of the GOP endorsed my opponent despite his criminal record, and he got chewed out for it. The fact that he would do that after he knew it makes me have a problem. That's the head of the GOP that did that. I know I'm not going to have the establishment on my side for this. And I think what I'm hopefully doing is doing a real grassroots campaign, a patriotic one. So a lot of people that support me were libertarians and independents that switched their party because they wanted a conservative that was going to defend their constitutional rights and do all the basic things that we want. We're actually a lot less dissimilar than people think. And so we have that. And if I win, if I go on to this, it's because the people wanted me. And I'm always going to be fighting the establishment. And maybe that's good. Because the problem with the establishment and the reason where I believe the RNC and the GOP fail is they don't modernize. They don't modernize at all. The left modernizes, they weaponize idiocy. They know if they do the right headline and they get people hyped up, they can get them to do pretty much anything. That's obvious. And I fight a lot with my own party. I'm not conservative enough for them. And they don't like the way I talk. They don't like the way I dress. They don't like the way I look. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but if you really want to change this country, you want to support Trump, and you want to make better changes, you need to get over yourself. You need to stop being uppity. You need to stop thinking that every Republican woman needs to look like Barbara Bush, otherwise they can't be taken seriously. They have to be more accepting on their part. And I think that's what I hopefully am doing throughout this is I'm kind of joining all the slightly right of center groups together. We don't always have to agree, whether you can be super Christian, you could be an atheist libertarian. At the end of the day, you really want your freedom and you want a wonderful country. And you want something like that. So don't agree on all the issues. That's never going to happen. That's what the left does, and that's why it fractures and it eats itself all the time. We have to be more accepting and less judgy. And I think that's what turns people off from the Republican Party so much is this uppity, elitist judgment. And at the end of the day, I believe that the Republican Party had slowly over time become the party of the working class, the farmer, the hard workers. Mm-hmm. And you can't do that to us. You can't look down on us anymore. You have to embrace us, and we have to work together. At the end of the day, we are all fiscal conservatives that just want our freedom. That's what I love to tell the GOP. Stop endorsing criminals.
No, you are absolutely correct. And you're not the only person to make that observation. The Republican Party has become the party of the people, the working class people, because, when you work hard for it and then it gets taken from you, like it deeply affects you. And I think that's another thing that, this quarantine's bringing out is like where people might have been, centrist or, kind of middle of the aisle, lean left on one thing, lean right on another.
Right.
The quickest way to get into someone's thought process is to affect their bottom line. And, you know, while you might have leaned a little bit left, hey, the pot dispensaries got shut down too. You know, like, hey,
Not here.
Whatever it might, well, not in Nevada. It's a state issue.
Well, remember, our governor just got in trouble because he got coerced donations from MedMen. He was forcing people to donate individually because they had capped it off. So yeah, we got a problem. I mean, I'm glad meat shops are open. I know they help veterans and stuff, but our vitamin shops, our mom and pop vitamin shops were closed. It's stupid. You know,
right. Well, and that's the thing. Like, when you start shutting down people's businesses, you have their attention real quick. And when people, like, there's a lot of hairdressers and barbers out there that are on the left side of things. You know, like, when you can't turn everyone's hair purple, like, you don't get paid, you know, like, you know, and that's a real thing. And people like, well, why can't I, you know, color people's hair? Why can't I, you know, I have more, when I say I am referring to like the hair salon, the hair cosmetology industry. They have more sanitation training and hygiene training than a lot of other like professions. They go to school longer than it takes more education to become a barber than it takes to become a police officer. Like, there's a lot of things there. It's like, when you start digging into people's pocketbook, their opinions start changing, and people do vote with their pocketbooks. Now, they may not donate with their pocketbooks, but the Republican Party is definitely becoming more and more blue collar. It's becoming more and more working man and woman, because like, people don't want to give up how hard they worked. And like, we just saw like everyone lose a lot of stuff. And then we just watched people that were trying to get it back, get it lit on fire. Yeah. That definitely is going to turn people against, you know, like it has that, you know, overshadows the injustice that was served to one man. Like, when hundreds of people's livelihoods are destroyed, like, in a single neighborhood, it's tough to like get behind a party that it condones it. And, you know, people start to turn their backs on stuff like that. But I digress. That's all I got.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I believe that the Republicans have been the party of the working class for a very long time. I feel like some people haven't caught on. There are some Southern Democrats that haven't realized it switched. You know, and I think that's a huge one. One of the things that I ran into almost immediately when I announced that I was running for Congress is someone from the GOP who's an awful person. They're like, well, I've never heard of you. And I'm like, I've never heard of you. Okay, so we don't play this game. And I'm like, well, you know, I do the social media and stuff. No one cares about that. That won't get you anywhere. And I kid you not, like, the quarantine happened a few days later, and I've got my opponent spending $15K on Facebook to try to beat me and come close. And, you know, they have this, they don't want to modernize. So I feel like the disconnection between the establishment, you know, our actual higher up GOP members and the people, there's a disconnect there that needs to be made. We're watching. Yeah, we don't like what the left's doing, but I can spot a rhino just as bad. And I think the rhinos do more damage. They put an R next to their name. People don't know any better. They get voted in, and then they're just doing Democrat stuff. And then now we're getting blamed for it looking bad. You know, we have a lot of issues with that. But I think it's fixable. I'm an eternal optimist, and I do believe everything is fixable. Like I said, even if I don't win this primary, I'm just going to start right back up again. I just put too much into this, and too many people I've met along the way that need help. And this state is fixable. The longer we wait, the worse it gets. Obviously, the election fraud. I don't trust the results of the election I'm in. It's that point. We had at the website, my vote got erased, as long as hundreds of others apparently had their votes erased off the website. We had 6,000 ballots disappear off Memorial Day weekend with a 700 Republican loss and a 700 Democrat gain. Stuff like that. And we're so, you know, I feel like the media does a really good job of distracting us. Between the coronavirus and the riots, we're not supposed to notice that they've enacted bills to have ballot harvesting and dead and inactive voters getting ballots and same-day registration and felons the right to vote. And now the illegals that get driver's licenses here are automatically signed up to vote. I've got a problem. We've got a huge problem, especially with the unions here. They're bullying people in a voting way. And until, now I'll say this from the rooftops, number one thing on my platform, voter ID, secure our elections. I could argue with all the other issues in the world that we have as conservatives for our rights. But at the end of the day, if our vote doesn't matter and we're not voting for the people and the bills we want, it's pointless. And we're just letting cheaters win, and we're going to spiral down until we're finally all on fire. So yes, voter ID. How hard is that, really, at the end of the day?
Well, you have to use ID to get to do a lot less important things, right? You need ID to do a number of things. I mean, I do live in the socialist state of New York, and it pains me every day. But one day I'll be out of here. And when I go vote, every time I go vote, they're like, I go to pull up my ID, and they're always like, these little old ladies, like, you don't need your. I'm like, no, I want you to look at my ID. And they go, oh, okay. I'm like, because they're just like, what's your name? And they're gonna let me sign. I'm like, no, I want you to look at it, regardless of whether I need to or not. I make them look at it. Now, granted, they could tell usually I'm wearing something, patriotic or whatever. They probably know where I'm coming from. But no, you brought up, you hit a number of good points, Mindy. We've kept you for about an hour, a little over an hour.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, it's you. I mean, we're sorry. We're taking up some of your night. But, you covered a lot. Thankfully, you talk really slow, so I know it's hard for you to get a lot of stuff out.
Oh, my gosh. This is me talking slow. I'm from, most people don't know this, but I grew up in southeastern Massachusetts, so I like a really awful accent. It's kind of like in the Rhode Island accent. It's just not attractive, and I really know how to talk slow here so people understand what I'm saying. Yes.
Wow, I caught 2 words out of that.
That was from the assholes back home. I have to do that once in a while.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. The what you got, Toby?
Hey, no, like that's good. I was going to ask her, Mindy, if you were going to be leading the charge on getting Tesla to Nevada. I know there's a lot of industry that's trying to leave California. Nevada and Texas are 2 of the locations. There's a big contingent here directly where I'm from in Central Texas that are, getting on the get Tesla here and get other industries here. But we've always been that way in Texas. But no, we really appreciate you taking the time. It's been, like we said, an hour. That's a little bit longer than we thought. So no, don't be sorry. We're grateful for the time. A couple months ago, your guy, he had a little situation, man. We were all praying. We're glad that he's strong. He walks out like a champ because he's the champ. And no, great. It was great well, it wasn't great to know that had happened, but it was great to see how he handled it. And that was awesome. And it's one of my favorite TMZ clips of all time because it's just like, that's right. That's a man. That's a man. But,
he walked to the hospital with a heart attack. He tried to foam, what do you call it, like the foam rollers? He thought he popped a rib. He was trying to crack his back. He's having a heart attack. He still drove himself home. Wouldn't let me drive him there. And then we walked to the hospital. So we had to walk back at that point. I'm like, well, you're healthy. But yeah, it was a scare. And he's actually working out now. So he's better. But, it was just a save broken tripod. But yeah, I've taken up so much of your time. I hope that's okay.
Right.
No, no worries.
We had a lot of comments.
We want everyone to know where they can find you.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So like on the socials, I Heart Mindy. But what we really need you to do is we need you to go to Mindy Robinson for Congress. Get on her page. Donate those dollar bills. Throw a little 10-ski, 20-ski, 50-ski, 100-ski up in there. Support her. She's not she doesn't need $1 million. What she needs is your support. She needs your voice. And because she actually wants to represent the people of the 3rd district. The 3rd district. I meant no disrespect to the 2nd, but the 3rd district of Nevada.
I got to say, we had a lot of comments and questions in the chat. We keep getting the same comment over and over. Rosie the Riveter pose. That's all I keep seeing is Rosie. Rosie the Riveter pose. So obviously somebody.
Well, because I was also like a spokesman for like on the wall kind of stuff. But,
yep. So there we go, Nathan.
It's not the same with my blazer. I have to wear a blazer now. I'm running for office. So.
Yeah.
But
so there we go.
I have one word for everyone out there, if I may.
Oh, absolutely.
I know it's late in the game. It's an economic crisis, but instead of money, what's even better? If you know anybody, or you know somebody that knows somebody in Southern Nevada, text them, message them, email, tell them to vote for me. They can register day of as a Republican and vote for me for this. So please do that. We have to flip this red. If we don't do it this time, it's going to be a lot harder next time. And we have 2 years that I could be making really good changes instead of waiting for the next one. So that's all I ask.
When's the primary date?
Tuesday. This Tuesday.
This Tuesday coming up. Wow. Okay. Well, keep an eye on it. So there you go, everyone. Wow, I didn't realize.
Yeah, we got people in the chat room from your district, actually.
Yay!
So Angie, tell your peeps. Tell your neighbors.
That's right. Angie is from there. That's right. So I know Angie well. So yeah, vet herself. Good deal. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything before we let you go? Is there anything that we did not? You got a few things out. Is there anything that you didn't cover that you just want to let people know, or anything that we didn't ask you want to make sure people understand about you?
If anyone's having trouble with their ballots, like I said, check the government website, put your information in. If it's still missing, if there's still something wrong, if they have you registered as a Democrat, message me, Mindy Robinson for Congress @gmail. I'm collecting all the data and I'm using it as evidence, one way or the other. When I lose this primary, I'm not going to stop this battle against voter fraud. So just do that for me. If you have any trouble, you get turned away, something funny, message me. I'll put it in an article. I'll black out your name if you want it. But we absolutely have to hold people accountable. And we can't afford to just sit aside and think the right people are going to make the right decisions anymore. We have to be proactive.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Hey, Mindy, it was great having you on. Big kudos to our Rob, the unpaid producer, who found you and gets you on. He guy works hard for the money he doesn't make. And please, man, I hope we hear something good after next Tuesday. We'd love to have you back on and see where the next
victory
battle
tour.
lines up.
Victory tour.
That's right. That's right. So stay in touch. Oh, there goes that tripod again. Stay in touch. You have a good night. We'll let you go. And thank you again for giving us your Thursday night. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And just like that, she fell off the call and the chair.
There we go.
Or the phone fell off the tripod. No, that was awesome to get her on. It's so neat to see the variance in people running for office these days. With Luna that we had on a couple weeks ago, I think we're still trying to get Danny Merritt out of Georgia on. We had the young man out of South Central, going against, trying to change that. It's just really great to see people, like Mindy said, this is a continuation or a form of service. And, for the veterans that are doing it, it's a continuation of service, for, people that haven't had the opportunity to serve or, for whatever reason couldn't or didn't, it is a way of true leadership. And, these are the times that we really need people. We don't need politicians per se, telling us what we need to do and not do. What we need is, our neighbors, our brothers and sisters, reminding us of what's important.
Right.
We don't necessarily need to be told what to do. We need to be reminded of what's important. And, I've had a lot of different thoughts, and I've talked to a bunch of my soldiers. I've talked to some of my neighbors, business associates, and, right outside my office here for the past 2 days, there have been protests. Of course they're fairly peaceful here, but lots of chants and marching and signs, and and some of it, it's, I don't want to say offensive, but it's hard to agree with. But I appreciate and respect, the right to do it. But
I mean, that's what the First Amendment's about, right? That's what it's.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's about.
Right, and it's about peaceful protests and civil discourse, civility. Back to our buddy Matt. Big shout out to Matt Goss, right? That's what the First Amendment's about, right? It is about the ability to peacefully let your voice be heard. It's not just freedom of speech. It's to assemble. It's to have civil discourse, right? It is, and it's. I mean, everyone. I don't know of anyone. Even some people I know who I would think, if someone was like, hey, can you think of any races I'd be like, well, yeah, I could think of maybe a couple. But even those folks, everyone saw that video and was pretty much aghast. I can't see anyone that wasn't. It was like, for it to last 8 minutes and 40-something seconds, for the guy just begging to be breathing. He was obviously handcuffed, and as we know, and I have a number of friends that are cops like you do, Toby, and I talked to some of them about it. I was like, look, once that person, it's like rules of engagement and levels of escalation, level of force, right? Once you apply the minimum amount necessary to sequester the threat. And once he was handcuffed, he was not, even if he had fought them before the video started, with 4 officers right there and handcuffed, he was no longer a threat, right? If he kicked, they could hit his legs and then hog tie him and throw him in the back like they do in Williamson County on Live PD. But they didn't need to, drive knees all the way into his body, all the way down and choke him out. And then 2 minutes after he quits showing life, say, hey, we should maybe check this guy out. It was look, there's bad people in every profession. We know that, whether they're men of the cloth, they're clergy, they're politicians, they're cops, they're firefighters. Hell, we know there's soldiers that are bad people, right? No job, we've said it before, no job makes you exempt or protects you or somehow changes your character. It depends on how you execute that. So, yes, bad cops, right? But there are also bad people that have attacked other people that do nothing but are just trying to be business owners, or drive by and all of a sudden get, as happened in Buffalo, they had the protests and they just, break in the window and drag this lady out of her car and just start and beat the fire. She was doing nothing wrong. She didn't choke anybody. She didn't do anything else, right? You have the truck driver in Minneapolis who was on an interstate that did not have a barricade up, came around the corner, and all of a sudden there's thousands of people in front of him, and he slams the brakes on, doesn't hit anybody, but they attack him, drag him out there, and almost beat him into an inch of his life. You got the guy in Dallas who's trying to defend his shop and got beat down, right? And these people did nothing. They didn't hurt George Floyd. They didn't know him. Nobody knew him prior to Memorial Day, right? But that's the 180 degrees from peaceful protests. Because what these rioters and looters have done is they've taken something that the entire country unified behind, which was the terrible murder of this guy by several police officers, where everyone of every race, creed, and color and walk of life all said, that was really bad, that sucks, that's terrible, I feel bad for them. And they've turned it, they have bastardized and manipulated it to a point of, I'm going to go get me some free shit. And I'm going to tear up other people's stuff who are trying to make a living. And as you said, some are just now, we're about to come out of this COVID lockdown. They were getting their businesses ready, and now their businesses are torched. How is that doing it for anybody? Sorry. It's rant day.
No, I appreciate everything that you're saying, but I want to take it one step further. And because my daddy told me that if you don't have a solution to what you're talking about, you're just whining. He didn't say it like that. He was more like, Booby, I tell you.
You know what I used to say as a first sergeant? When someone come to me, I'm like, you're going to bring me a problem, bring me a solution. Otherwise, you're just bitching. Yeah, and you're just bitching. Right? Bring me a solution. Yeah.
And so I believe firmly in, I haven't said anything on social media. I haven't said anything. And I'm going to say my first real things publicly right now, because I feel like if you're just talking about it, that's great. But that's not a solution, and that's not helping it. So I want to take what you said, and I want to say a little bit more. Like what was in the chat room here, I'm on the Facebook one. The entire nation agreed. The entire nation, was unified that this was an egregious act. But then there came this division, and this division came before the protesters. This division came when people started labeling and attaching people groups to the event. It no longer was the event of law enforcement doing wrong on this civilian. It then became an identity of a law enforcement officer on the identity of the victim. Right. And when we lead with identity, we shortchange ourselves. And what happened didn't happen to a people group. It happened to a human being.
Yes.
And another human being, not a people group, did it to that other human being. And, while we were appalled and disgusted and flabbergasted and astonished and in disbelief that this actually happened, that is enough. Like, we don't have to I see your issue and I'm going to raise it and throw in another issue.
Right.
We don't need to do that. Like, we just need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So how do we make sure that this doesn't happen again? Well, we have laws on the books. We have a system of justice. We got these Bill of Rights. And the gentleman, the man, the person, the human that was on that dude's neck for 8 minutes and however many seconds, or 9 minutes, whatever it was, he broke the law. He broke one of God's laws, and he broke one of the laws of the land. He committed murder. And, we have a system to ensure that that person gets punished for that crime. And, I would say in a fairly quick amount of time, they were able to get charges laid. And, while people didn't necessarily agree with the initial charges that were laid, we have a system that, when you get arrested, there's processes that have to happen for that. And, the system worked. And not only did the system work and that person was charged, the people that were around that also did not assist or contributed were therefore also subsequently charged for that behavior.
Which is the same thing as happens in the military, right? You can't say because my leader did something, I didn't step in. If it's moral, right? Everyone has those moral values instilled in them as a soldier, right? You can't.
And you have a legal and moral obligation.
Right.
So now action's been taken, but we're still not believing in the system. And we're trying to burn a system down, and we're trying to destroy a system that is working. And we need to not put the division to it, and we need to put the love to it. And,
right.
I got to tell you, I was talking to a great guy. Shout out to Glenn Purdue, a soldier I served with, great guy. And, he was asking, some questions, and he has a little different perspective than I have. And I was like, man, I tell you what, on my tombstone, there's some things that I would love to be on there if I have a tombstone, or if it's just a plaque or whatever it is. But my legacy, what people are going to see of me or know of me, there's some things that I would like. And the first and foremost is hey, I was a good father. I think, the most important ministry is the one in your house. And, you got to try and be a good parent, right? You got to prepare your kids to be good humans, and so that they follow on. And that's what legacy continues. I would like to be a good husband. I'd like to be a good partner. I'd like to be a good brother. And so I hope that, when people are thinking of me, that will be my legacy.
And a patriot. I think you deserve to have it, right?
Well, thank. I think that's flattering that you would say that, but that's not as important to me as being a good dad. It's not as important to me as being a good husband or being a good brother or whatever.
Right.
But no one that I have ever met in my life wants their legacy on their tombstone or whatever plaque, whatever it is, to be he was a great white guy.
Right.
Because what does that even mean?
Right.
He was a great black guy. That's the most irrelevant thing. So why do we put so much value in this? Why is our identity wrapped up in our color and not in our character?
Right.
I want my legacy to be wrapped around my character.
Hence,
because
that's
what my legacy actually is gonna be.
The main
it's not
part
gonna be
of that speech.
Toby was an all right white dude.
Right.
Hopefully it's Toby did an okay job at being a dad, and made some mistakes, but he had love in his heart.
If you could wrap up the life of Martin Luther King in his phrase, it's that part of the speech, right? judged by the content of his character, not the color of the skin. I look at that all the time, and I say it all the time, and I go, why does someone like Joe Biden going, I'm going to hire, I'm going to have a woman as my thing, or someone says, I'm going to go after this type of demographic when I was like, don't. Pick the best person, right? That's why I'm not a big believer. I don't believe in affirmative action. I don't believe in we're going to make sure we bring in 15% of this and 20%. No, bring in the people that are most qualified. The content of their character. Anytime someone does anything but that, I go, you are speaking against and fighting with this, the meaning of that speech and what that man stood for. Yeah. When you want to say, and just saying, now I'll take this back. When people were back in 2008 were saying, I'm voting for Barack Obama because he's black. That's not the right reason. Vote for him because you think he can bring change. Vote for him because you think he's bringing a new way of doing things, and is it going to be great? But don't ever make it about that. Don't make it about their gender. Don't make it about I'm going to vote for Hillary because she's a woman, and you're missing. You might as well be just throwing Martin Luther King out the window, right? And in my opinion, the basis of our faith, which is Christianity, which is and the basis of what the founding fathers, which is tied to the Bible, right? Christianity, which is all men are created equal, and by men not being a certain gender, but in generality, right? That's what it's about. It's not about, like you said, I'm not going to have. When I have friends of mine like you do that have all races. Some I don't even know the races. It doesn't matter. I served with them. They've been friends of mine for life. Some have been friends back in my younger days before I was in the military. I mean, my high school years. They're my friends. I don't care. I mean, I don't think about it. I'm like, oh, that's my 2 black friends. That's my 3 Puerto Rican friends. That's my this. Now, when we're amongst each other, we have humor. We joke. We do that. Or whatever we say and do, it's because we're all comfortable. We know there's no hate and there's no ill will behind that. But when I think or talk to them, I don't say, oh, I've got to invite this kind of person over, right? They're my buddy. I don't know. Maybe you're Polish. I don't know. You're Canadian. I don't hold that against you. Love my Canucks. But I don't say Toby's my Canadian friend. No, Toby's my freaking brother from another motherland. But yeah.
No, and that's the thing. We need to start as individuals. Like, you want to go out and protest. Well, that's awesome. Like, that's great. Exercise that speech. But you have the freedom of speech every day. You have the freedom to let your actions, demonstrate who you are. And you have the freedom, to solve this problem. And everyone's like, well, that's easy for you to say because you're white and you don't understand racism. Like, okay, first of all, racism is not an American problem. Right?
And it's not a black problem.
Racism is a global problem, and the Army's taken me to some places where I was like, man, this is a racist place, like Korea.
Yeah,
that's a pretty racist place. There's some places in like the state that in the United States, in this country that Hawaii, they, inherently like suspect of people from the mainland.
Most of Europe, a lot of the Middle East are all very racist. There's a social class system.
Racism is not an American issue. What is an American issue, though, unique, is how racism is handled. The rest of the world has figured out, to let your actions do your leading, right? We feel like we need to put, instead of encouraging people to not think racially, we encourage people to think racially. The NFL, everyone gets up in arms about old Kaepernick taking a knee there, but talking about, injustice and all that. But the NFL has institutional racism built into it. And it by definition has institutional racism because it benefits teams to hire minorities as coaching staff, and they reward them hey, if you're gonna, not only are we gonna give you a bonus and give you cash if you hire a minority, he might not be the best qualified guy for the job, we're also gonna give you draft picks, and we're gonna put down this quota that you need to do that. That affirmative action and all that stuff, that's institutionalized racism.
Yes.
That's not helping solve racism. That's not saying, hey, be of good character, get on that order of merit list. That's one of the things I absolutely loved about the military, is that order of merit list. You want to go to Ranger school? Be a better shooter.
Yeah.
Be a better PT stud. When we do that 5-mile run, like you better be in step. Like you make time.
Right.
You want that EIB?
Pat,
Yeah.
don't get
you cross that line. You carry that weight, son.
That's right.
Like, like performance mattered. And if you wanted to achieve and you wanted to accomplish something and you wanted to get somewhere, man, you did it on your merit, order of merit list. And I love that. I'm doing job interviews. I got some jobs we got to hire for in the morning, and we're trying to get people back at work here. And, like I got this like pre-filled out, like I was trying to save a little bit of time. And, instead of like writing up my own little form and stuff, I was like, I'm just going to like download some HR stuff and see if like I can, make some things easier for the interview process for like my counterparts and I to help, select the best candidate for the positions that we're trying to fill. And then there's all these stupid questions on there. And it's like, how is that irrelevant? Like, I want to know is like, are you qualified to do this job? Like, what's your motivation? Like,
what's your background? How are you qualified? Right?
Like, yeah. Like, and I want to hire the best candidate, like for the job. And like, I'm not ranking somebody based on these insignificant, irrelevant things. What's significant is that, are you qualified?
Are you qualified?
Do you want to
dependable? Yeah. Are you dependable? Do you have the values that I look for you to have as far as like being on time and doing this and doing that? Absolutely. I mean, that's and that you're right. I mean, that institutionalized racism and different things like that, it keeps being brought up. Right. I mean, I remember growing up in the 70s. I was telling someone this the other day. In my younger years, elementary, I lived in Arizona. In Arizona, in the late 70s, our prom and king and queen she was a white blonde girl and he was black. Nobody thought nothing about it. It wasn't even a thought in Mesa, Arizona. There wasn't even a concept of that. And then I moved to the southeast, and I moved to a place where there was like, oh, there are only no black people are gonna live here, and I was like, huh? I couldn't even conceive that. I'm like, why do you guys even think that way? It starts how it is in a home, and it also is heavily influenced by your circle of influence. Now, sadly, our circle today is the World Wide Web and all the trash and garbage you see on social media, right? People read all this BS and everything like that, and young people are influenced by that. But I mean, it still starts there in the values and things that you put in and what you say and support, but you shouldn't look at someone that way. And I don't think anyone could look at that and say that guy deserved it because he was black, right? Just like no one looks at these shop owners, Korean, white, Latino, that are having their livelihoods destroyed and burned down, say, well, that's what they get for being a Latino Jiffy store owner in Queens or something, or Bronx. No one thinks that way. Nobody deserves that. Macy's didn't deserve it. Walmart now, Chicago mayor is begging Walmart not to leave Chicago because they're like, you've looted all of our stores. We may pull out and not come back. Right? No, they shouldn't have taken that. These elected officials should be, they have a mantra and a mission to protect the livelihood of individuals and businesses in their locale. Right? It shouldn't be like, well, it's Walmart or Target. It's okay. It's not okay. People are still going to pay for that. It's still going to ruin. When that store can't open, those minimum wage workers don't have a job to come back to. Now that things are opening back up, they're still going to be unemployed. So some people are kind of writing it off saying, well, they're big business. They got insurance. They do. The mom and pop business doesn't. The one firefighter who just retired and was about to open a sports bar, and it's gone. And he was a week away from opening. He didn't even have his insurance yet. It's wiped out. Oh yeah, guess what? He just happens to be black. Doesn't matter. He's an American that fought hard and saved to build a business, and it's wiped out. It just add on to character. Guess what? He's a retired firefighter. He spent his life serving his community to make that money to be his own businessman, and now it's gone. It didn't matter if he was a freaking space alien, right? This is what is just so infuriating. This is when you see this and you go, holy crap, where's this country going? You know what? Corona wasn't that bad. Murder hornets weren't even a thought, even a super volcano. When our core fundamentals of what it means to be a functioning society are being wiped out or just eradicated because certain people are pushing agendas or they're ignoring agendas because it doesn't benefit them. Sorry.
No. And one thing, like I also want to say is Black Lives Matter. There's a difference between the message and the movement. And like the message is being lost in the movement. And, like, and that's most unfortunate. But I also fundamentally disagree that, we should be focused on, loving our neighbor, regardless. Yeah. And, when I sat here yesterday and, my meetings were interrupted every 3 minutes as, our square's not that big. So however many minutes it took them to do a revolution around the square, it was a couple hundred people and, they're chanting and, they're saying things and, some of it, I appreciated. And, of course I appreciate and respected it all in terms of the right to do it. But, like you got people with signs, like F the police or defund the police or, it's like, it's great that you're exercising the right, but like at least put a thought to it.
Yeah.
Like if the reason you're able to walk around and chant and pump up the signs up and down the air is because there was like 20 cops on the corners making sure that you didn't get run over.
Yeah.
Like they weren't wearing riot gear. They weren't wearing anything like that. They're the nicest dude. Georgetown PD is one of the most professional law enforcement agencies in the entire nation. Like it's run by an amazing veteran, by a guy by the name of Wayne Nero, an amazing dude, one of the most amazing community leaders I've ever met. And it's so neat. Like, but you're out there complaining, but you don't have a solution. And saying like defund the police or like everybody, like that's not a solution. That's just being adversarial. Right. Like, and then you're hijacking that message. Like you use that term. And the difference is like one's a message and one's the movement. Like the message is like, let's make sure that we're better. And last time that some of this stuff cooked off, some amazing improvements in law enforcement happened. Improvements in training, improvements in equipment. The only way that happens is with money. And one of the things like we've had, Mike Simpson on the show.
Cams, those body cams that protect not only
body
the
cams
officers
became almost mandatory for every officer based on what happened in 2010, right?
Right.
Around that, or 10 to 12. I'm trying to remember the time frame. But like, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have what we have, and we're a better place for it because now we have like a bit of accountability. But we also have to like stop going like, well, there's, like we can't do this tit for tat, this comparison about bad apples here and bad apples there. It's like we need to hire the right people for the right jobs. We need to hire the best qualified. We need to give them training. And, we need to support each other and we need to lead with character, not with color. And like,
that's it right there. I like that statement. That's it.
Yeah. No, like, and it's, I know it sounds so simple because it is.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, well, it's a very complex problem. It's like, that's actually not that complex at all.
Treat everyone.
Be a better human.
Yeah.
I don't need Donald Trump to send in troops to tell me to be a better human. My parents are supposed to do that. All right. Like that's their job. And my job as a parent is to be a better human and to raise better humans and to teach them like right from wrong.
And when I do the wrong things, then I should
Correct
be held
me.
accountable. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
like admonish me, make me better.
Right. Teach me that. Right.
Like, and that's the thing. It's like, people are like, it's so complex. It's not. They're like it's not. Racism's not a uniquely American thing. I've been watching the BBC. I've been watching news from New Zealand, Australia, Canada, trying to get like a look at all these different perspectives. And they're all like talking about like this uniquely racist America. It's like, America's not uniquely racist.
No.
Like, thanks for that, like virtue signal, like media from freaking Australia. Like, let's talk about your Aboriginal problems.
Yeah, that's
they
tend to squash it.
Let's talk about First Nations, Canada.
Yeah, Germany, France. I mean, you could hit a lot of them, right? That
yeah. But we tend to promote it because it's fascinating. It gets attention. It's
clickbait.
It's 100%. And that's why I say it's like, don't even go to where the protesters started destroying stuff, or the thugs that hid behind protesters started doing stuff. Go to the reason people act badly in those things is because they see the cameras. Everyone's holding up a cell phone. Everyone's doing that. And they're like, oh, here's the green light to misbehave.
Yeah.
Like, hey, guys that were like, holding up the cell phones for that dude for however many minutes, you had a lot of opportunity to put that cell phone down and be like, hey, I'll help you contain this guy if you get off his neck.
Yeah.
Like, where were the good Samaritans? Like, where were the guys that said, hey, like we always hear about these good Samaritans when that cop's getting his ass beat on the side of the road, giving a traffic ticket, someone stopping him and helping him out. Where was that guy or that gal and said, hey, I'll help you hold this guy in a different way so like, you can be more effective at your job. Like, I'm an infantry guy, so like I don't think that one dude being out of the fight for 9 minutes is wise. For whatever that situation that there's that many cops for, I don't even know the situation. But like you don't got time to stay on the X that long. Like,
yeah,
where were the good Samaritans to help out?
For a possible counterfeit, like, for a possible counterfeit $20 bill? I mean,
yeah, I don't even know what it was.
Yeah, I mean,
to me, it's irrelevant.
Right. Again, he could have been fighting him. He could have fought him, but once they had him contained, the battle's over. That's it, right?
All that's irrelevant. Be a better human.
Yeah.
If you see something like that, use your words. Like, that's why we tell 6, 7, 8-year-olds, like when they're throwing little tantrums, use your words. Communicate.
That's why we say
how we can solve this problem.
That's why we say in the military, right? Do the hard right, not the easy wrong, right?
Right? Amen.
Right? Have tact, have values, right? That's why every soldier's measured on those. It's have character. But like you said, judge people by the character, not the color. Awesome thing. Hey, we went long tonight.
So Nathan Trent, like he's like talking about all the Commonwealth I just listed. Yes. The U.S. did break away from the United Kingdom, is no longer a member of the Commonwealth, 1776. But just so you know, Nathan, I'm a Canadian.
and American. I say both. But
I'm commissioned Texan. I have like paperwork.
You've done more for America.
Everything else says I'm an alien.
You've done more for America than 99% of the ones that were shat out in this country. So, I'm just saying like it is. But anyways, yeah. Awesome. Well, I want to give went long tonight. Not surprised. We had a lot to cover with or without a guest. We had Mindy on. I want to thank her for coming on. Want to also thank our sponsors. We didn't get to do that at the beginning. Veteran Outdoors, Commodity Outdoor Development Group, and Listen 9 Fight Company. Great sponsors. Want to thank you guys for everything you do. Hey, we are in June now. We are hitting the halfway point and getting into summer. Schools are wrapping up. COVID apparently is wrapping up. And maybe we can start to see some summer life come back. But, hey, Toby, great show tonight, huh, bud?
Hey, not bad, man. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Also, shout out to boohammer.com.
Yeah,
Get all your news and intelligence information. Subscribe to the newsletter at boohammer.com.
I wish. We're having website issues. I got to get that fixed. I didn't even have time to deal with it.
So do it, but next week.
Yeah, do it next week.
Subscribe next week.
I got to get back.
But thanks everyone for tuning in. Another great show. Sorry it went so long. Mindy, great guest. Rob, great job as producing as always. Last week he wasn't able to help us as much as he normally does, and he sent me a picture of a boat that was like straight up beached, grounded, and sunk in mud, and I was like, that's not the way you want your fishing trip to go.
That's not how it works or supposed to work for sure. But
so thanks for coming back, Rob. Like in one piece and helping us out. Great guest tonight. You're the man. And let's keep America rolling, man. Let's get her back open, and let's love on our, come on people now, love on your brother.
Yep.
Like the famous song lyrics. Let's live that instead of like talking other trash and nonsense.
Yep. Thank you very much, everyone. Be sure, if you didn't watch the last episode, make sure you check out the one with Saw Man on there, and check out vetsforchildren.org. And if you haven't watched it, you need to watch the movie, and everyone. So thank you. We'll see you guys next Thursday here on Stu and the Nunn, 8 o'clock Eastern at stewandthenunn.com. Check out all of our socials, and everyone have a good, safe week. Good night, Toby. Good night, brother. We will talk to you later. And the one hand. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.